Welcome to Hood Politics. In this episode, I will be discussing the story of Lloyd Avery II. The facts of the case are as follows. The 1990s was the era of hood movies. South Central, Juice, New Jersey Drive, American Me, Fresh, Blood In, Blood Out, Above the Rim, Tales from the Hood, and Menace to Society are all classics in the genre. But out of all the hood movies, only one reigns supreme, Boys in the Hood. Boys in the Hood is a coming-of-age story about a group of friends trying to navigate the streets of South Central Los Angeles, whether positively or negatively. The 1991 film put South Central Los Angeles under a microscope and gave the world an idea of what everyday life was like. The film was directed by John Singleton in his directorial debut, and it stars Ice Cube as Doughboy, Cuba Gooding Jr. as Trey, Morris Chestnut as Ricky, Lawrence Fishburne as Furious, Angela Bassett as Reva, Nia Long as Brandy, Regina King as Shalika, and a newcomer named Lloyd Avery II, who was simply credited as Knucklehead number 2 in the film. Lloyd Avery II was born on June 21st, 1969, in the View Park neighborhood of Los Angeles, California. His father, Lloyd Avery Sr., was a self-employed handyman, and his mother, Linda Avery, was a stay-at-home mom. Lloyd attended Beverly Hills High School, where he excelled in water polo and baseball. While attending Beverly Hills High, Lloyd became a good friend with Quincy Jones' son, Quincy Jones III, also known as QD3. Lloyd graduated in 1987 and enrolled in LA Trade Tech, but dropped out a few months afterwards. He worked a host of small jobs, but he was more interested in the entertainment industry, which didn't sit well with his father. Lloyd Sr. wanted him to focus on a career while keeping entertainment as a hobby. Lloyd found some early success as a producer on Tisha Campbell's song Push. Around the same time, he landed a major role in the classic film Boys in the Hood. Lloyd played a blood gang member known for toting a double-barrel shotgun, and he would be a part of one of the most iconic scenes in movie history. Shortly after Boys in the Hood, Lloyd landed a role in the 1992 episode of the TV show Doogie Howser MD, where he played a character named Red. John Singleton became fond of Lloyd and would even attend fish fries at the Avery home. Singleton went on to cast Lloyd and Lloyd's brother Che in the 1993 film Poetic Justice, starring Tupac Shakur and Janet Jackson. But Singleton and Lloyd's friendship would turn bitter at the film's premiere. After the movie ended, Lloyd stood up in the theater and yelled, "Man, that shit was whack," which upset Singleton. Shortly afterwards, Lloyd's family and friends began noticing changes in his behavior. He became angry and confrontational. Singleton said Lloyd became the role of his Boys in the Hood character. Lloyd began rapping under the name L.A. Deuce, and he also began writing a movie script about the streets, but he wanted real-life inspiration, so he moved into the Baldwin Village, also known as the Jungles, which is a stronghold of the Black P-Stone Bloods. Lloyd shared an apartment with QD3. QD3 recalls Lloyd being in his mid-20s and hanging out with teenage gang members who sent them on crazy missions. In 1996, Lloyd made a cameo in a film that ironically parodied hood movies titled Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood, starring Sean and Marlon Wayans. Lloyd began receiving less and less gigs, and his hot-headed reputation didn't help. Many people that were close to Lloyd think he went off the deep end because he was frustrated that his dreams of being a star wasn't coming true, and if he couldn't be famous, he wanted to be infamous. Lloyd became a part of the jungle, to the point of getting the word Jungles tattooed over his eyebrow. In March of 1999, Lloyd was involved in a shootout on Hillcrest Avenue in the Jungles. In April of 1999, he was involved in an argument at an Islamic center near the Jungles. At around 11:30 that night, Lloyd threw a concrete water meter through the window of the center and a shootout ensued. Lloyd continued to spiral out of control, but after constant conversations with family and friends, he decided to clean up his act. He started distancing himself from the gang and began the process of getting his Jungles tattoo removed. Lloyd fell back into acting and landed a role in the 2000 film Lockdown, starring Master P, Richard T. Jones, Clifton Powell, and DeAndre Bonds. Lloyd played a character named Nate. Lloyd wasn't happy with his role as a drug-addicted snitch, and he would go on tirades through the halls voicing his disdain, which made the set very uncomfortable to work on, according to his co-stars. Shortly after wrapping Lockdown, Lloyd landed a role in the 2001 film Shot, starring Brandon Carrere and Trent Cameron. Lloyd played a character named G-Ride. The director of the film, Roger Roth, said that Lloyd was a great talent and he nailed his audition, but he went on to say that Lloyd's on-set antics were disappointing. He smoked weed near child actor trailers, he started started a fight with the gang, and he even stole a car. Lloyd told Roth that he was having a hard time being recognized. He said some people recognize him from Boys in the Hood, and other people recognize him because they think he may have killed their brothers. Around this time, Lloyd's past caught up with him when LAPD officers chased him down and charged him with the unthinkable. On July 1st, 1999, at around 4 p.m., Lloyd was at a shopping center near the Jungles when he was involved in an argument with a woman named Annette Lewis. Lloyd pulled out a gun and shot Lewis 5 times. He then shot a man named Percy Branch in his arm and in his stomach. Lewis died shortly afterwards, and Branch died a few weeks later on July 23rd. The night before his arrest, Lloyd's brother Che recalls Lloyd acting strange. Che knew Lloyd was in trouble, but he didn't know the specifics. He just knew that detectives had been showing up looking for Lloyd. As the two sat in their grandmother's garage, Che said Lloyd was saying things like, "I had a good life." Che said Lloyd sounded like he wanted to confess something to him, but Che stopped him because he was scared to hear what Lloyd was going to say. Early the next morning, the cops pounced. Helicopters hovered over the residence and patrol cars began to line the streets. Che saw Lloyd in the kitchen with his bike. Lloyd gave Che a hug and left out the back door. As Lloyd rode down Crescent Heights Boulevard, he made a U-turn and stopped next to a police car and asked the cop, "What's up?" As the cop exited the vehicle, Lloyd took off, but soon afterwards he collided with another police car. He was arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder. During the trial, there were a lot of issues with the prosecution's case. The 3 eyewitnesses who identified Lloyd as the shooter all had credibility issues. No murder weapon was recovered, and the bullet cases linking him to the shooting were accidentally destroyed by ballistics examiners. Still, Lloyd was found guilty with the murders of Annette Lewis and Percy Branch and sentenced to life in prison. Lloyd's family and friends were split over the conviction. Some of them thought he was innocent, and some of them believed he was guilty. Che recalled a time when Lloyd showed up to the house, yelling things like he kills people, and when he was told to leave, he replied, "I don't give a fuck. Jungles." Lloyd was sent to Pelican Bay State Prison, which is one of the most dangerous prisons in America. Che said that Lloyd wanted to go to Pelican Bay because it was the roughest place. Che went on to say that Lloyd had plans on beating his case in retrial, returning to the streets as a convicted murderer, and starting a rap career. Lloyd was granted a retrial, but he was again found guilty in July of 2005. While between trials, people that were close to Lloyd began noticing a change in him. He befriended a chaplain named Dennis Clark at the Los Angeles County Jail and became a born-again Christian. Lloyd stopped cursing and fighting, and he would often call family and friends to check up on them and offer kind words. When Lloyd returned to Pelican Bay after losing his retrial, he led prayer services and tried spreading the gospel to his cellmate, Kevin Roby. But there was a problem. Roby was a Satan worshipper who was on year 17 of 3 life sentences for murder. Lloyd sent a letter to Chaplain Clark saying that he knows God has him around Roby for a reason and that he prays Roby gives his life to God. Less than a week later, on Sunday, September 4th, 2005, Lloyd returned to his cell after attending church services. Lloyd laid on his bunk and began speaking his gospel as Roby worshiped near a pentagram that he had drawn on the floor. The two men began to argue over their ideologies, and the argument soon turned violent. After a brutal fight, Roby put Lloyd in a chokehold and strangled him to death. That night, corrections officers performed an inmate count. They reported nothing out of the ordinary. The next day, with Lloyd's body still in the cell, Roby wrote a flirtatious letter to one of Lloyd's female friends. Corrections officers performed another inmate count. Again, they reported nothing out of the ordinary. In total, corrections officers performed 11 inmate counts, including standing counts. Each time, they reported nothing out of the ordinary. Lloyd's body wasn't discovered until September 6, 2005. Roby laid Lloyd's body on a pentagram and performed a satanic ritual. At 11:55 a.m., a correction officer entered the cell and witnessed the gruesome scene. Roby was handcuffed and Lloyd's body was taken to the infirmary. CPR was administered for 10 minutes, but Lloyd's body was already decomposing. According to the coroner, Lloyd had a fractured sternum, which could have been caused by the CPR. Lloyd's eyelids were swollen shut, his nose was fractured, and there was an abrasion on his temple. The official cause of death was listed as aspiration of blood. Probable strangulation and a skull fracture were also listed as other conditions. Lloyd was officially pronounced dead at 12:10 p.m. The Avery family was notified of Lloyd's death later that night. Che immediately flew to Pelican Bay looking for answers. Che was allowed to view Lloyd's body, but became suspicious at the funeral home. Che was quoted saying, "I was overpowered by the smell. It took the breath out of me." The mortician told Che that Lloyd had been dead for at least 2 days. The Avery family paid for a private autopsy. Lloyd's cause of death was listed as blunt force trauma, complicated by an aspiration of blood. The report showed that the injury to Lloyd's skull was due to a blow from a flat surface, such as a carpenter's hammer, or an impact impact on a similar type surface. 2 investigations were launched. The district attorney handled the criminal aspect, and the Inspector General's Bureau investigated administrative misconduct. 8 months later, the Bureau determined that the prison's handling of security issues in the crime scene were poor. Roby confessed to Lloyd's murder and was sent to solitary confinement. The district attorney never filed charges against Roby. He said that Roby is already serving 3 life sentences and is never getting out. He went on to say that if he did file charges, Roby would get better treatment than the average prisoner, and since this isn't a death penalty case, it wouldn't make sense. The Avery family still had questions. They wanted to know if corrections officers were involved in Lloyd's murder, and why were a born-again Christian and a Satanist put in the cell together. The Avery family sent the request to the Attorney General's office and asked him to investigate Lloyd's murder. The Attorney General has the power to supersede the local district attorney. The Attorney General told the Avery family that they would give the district attorney discretion over the case, but they would review the case once the district attorney made a decision. Till this day, the case remains at a standstill. Che found the movie script that Lloyd was working on. The script told the story of a character named L.A. Deuce and details his experiences on the streets and in jail. The script was titled Jungles. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe.